Good evening from TSP. How's everyone doing?
Hoorah.
Great.
Right. Tonight we are Combat Chaps. He's in Arizona officiating a wedding. He'll be back tomorrow morning.
Hey guys, 5:50 in the morning. So I got to get up at 3, be at the airport by 4. Yeah, I'm running on like 6 hours of sleep right now. I'm exhausted.
Dave's got you. So
Oh,
today we are with
thanks, Dave.
Today we're with our new friend, Chief Master Sergeant Dave Nordel, E9 Air Force. Before we get into his story, I just want to give my little spiel here. Dave, just so you know, we're here at TSP. We started this podcast about a year and a half ago. And so what we do is we get veteran stories. And it started picking up so well that we actually just won a Best Veteran Podcast Award in the Navy Division.
Hoorah!
We're very proud of that. We missed best overall by 14 votes, but I can't complain because we've only been doing this for a little over a year. So what happened was I asked Combat Chaps, I've probably been talking about it for a couple of years now, told him about this project that I wanted to do and document people's stories, and he loved it, and he jumped on board. And then once we started doing it, it started taking off so well that the page started, generating a little bit of money, and I felt kind of creepy profiting from people's war stories or military stories, you know what I'm saying? And that's not what we're about. So what I did was I started a nonprofit, and so now we are going to be sending veterans and first responders to sporting events, like
with a mentor.
With a mentor, we're going to send them with a mentor. Let them, have an evening, to kick back and just talk to a mentor. Our number one goal is to save lives. So that's pretty much our spiel. Dave, how you doing?
Right. Good. I'm doing good. Well, let's marry in the nonprofit that I sit on the board here for, which is Horses, Spirits, Healing, and Billings, and we're using equine therapy for our veterans, PTSD, physical disabilities, combat related or not, and we've integrated their families into that. So it's a big deal, and so I get it. And when you make money, you got to put it right back in the system.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of what we're doing here, and we're really happy to have you on with us today.
I know a little bit about Navy guys. I can handle y'all. It's all good.
Hey, what about Marines, man? I mean, don't leave us out.
Well, I'll tell you a little Marine story, buddy. That all goes with the flag behind me. So we'll talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
We'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, where'd you grow up in like high school days? Where were you?
So
where are you from?
You'll like this. So, I'm a fourth generation Portuguese immigrant from the island of the Azores. So,
nice.
My family all came to the United States and then immigrated to the far north of California, almost the Oregon border on the coast, and they're all dairy farmers. So I grew up on a dairy farm, small dairy farm community in the top of the Northern California Valley. So small town. I graduated about 125, and that took smashing about 3 counties together to get a high school of 125. So my community was made up of migrant Mexicans and Portuguese people. So I'm pretty proud of that heritage. So as you can imagine, worked hard, worked in the fields, worked in all the crops, and had animals around and small town living and all the good and challenging things that come with that. Wanted to go in the military young. I used to get up in the middle of the night to watch John Wayne storm the beaches of Iwo Jima and watch the destroyers prep the beach because I thought that was pretty cool. Wanted to go in the Navy. And I had an English teacher that wrote on my paper once that I would probably never make it in college, so I should probably go in the military. How's that for motivation?
Nice.
So Combat Chaps and Richard, they no joke. I was all Navy. I was talking to the Navy recruiter. I was recruiting myself and was going to do it. And went to the library to take my ASVAB test. All the recruiters were standing there, and the Navy guy was not in a good mood that day. I don't know what his problem was, or maybe he just didn't think I was Navy. And the Air Force guy put his arm around me. His Master Sergeant John Dees put his arm around me and said, well, maybe I have an opportunity for you. So I went in the Air Force. And that's really the whole delineating to delineate.
Aim high, Dave. Aim high.
Aim high. Aim high. Close air support, right? Get into the supporting organization. Keep the Marines alive.
Well, as the only Marine here, we are the men's department of the Navy. So I was infantry.
Here
I
we
was a
go.
machine gunner for 4 years. So,
amen. Well,
amen.
I'll give you some of my background.
That's great.
So,
Bring it.
So off I went in the Air Force. 19 years old. Off I went to the Air Force. I wanted to be a plumber, and but I went in. I wanted to get in, so I went in open general, and the Air Force decided that I needed to be a medic. So combat chaps, you're looking at the Air Force version of an independent duty corpsman. So, and I got peeled off more times than not to spend a little time with Marines in places like Somalia and Iraq. So,
Bet you gave a lot of silver bullets.
And yeah, few silver bullets, and a lot of foot checks. And I learned how to speak slower and use smaller words. And still get awesome.
Well, hey, Dave, it's a good thing that I went to college and I joined the Marine Corps at 26 years old. So I went to Paris Island with a Bachelor of Arts in Classical Studies. So I actually had to use small words for the rest of my guys as well.
I was going to say you felt out of place when you got there doing that.
I did. I was the oldest, dumbest, smart kid. And I couldn't use big words because my drill instructors would be like, what does that mean? And go to the tree line because I'm tired of your face.
Love it. I love it. So they made me a medic, and that started a 30-year journey.
Nice.
All the way through it started a 30-year journey in the Air Force, and I knew I wanted to stay. I knew that's kind of what I wanted to do, but you never know till you get there, right? And I hit 4 years and re-enlisted for 6 and said, I'm kind of in it to win it. And
right.
And God bless people and what's going on in our lives when we're in the environment. So we're going to talk a little bit about, my end times here. I've got PTSD. Most of it's visual related from doing combat trauma. And I put myself through school and got a few degrees along the way. And my graduate degree is in emergency management, but I'm a registered nurse and shock trauma nurse, and did that civilian and military. Cut my teeth in the knife and gun clubs of the Oakland Bay area, and so there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack. But I'm a PTSD guy. I've got my demons, and I have to deal with it. But I'm in a place where I get help because I think we all need help. I've gotten past my ego and my tough guy thing. And I've got a story if you want to get into that. Gotten past my ego and my tough guy thing with that, and realized that there's people out there that can help even if they didn't wear the uniform and they don't know. They actually have some tools to offer us, and the getting the guys together and our forms of the tough guy form of therapy, especially when you've got the things you can't unsee, unhear, and unsmell. The tough guy form, we usually run to the therapists, Jim and Johnny and Jack. And those guys have always shown up, and they're always there for you, except when they wear off in the morning, and that's a problem. And we're losing 22 of our brothers and sisters every day, and it's unacceptable. And so, when I get on these venues, I like to offer people, you'll give people my information at the end. If you just want to call me and say, Dave, how did you get from here to there? I'll tell you, I had the pleasure of working my way through the medical piece of it, but I was heavily exposed to the line. As I told you, I did independent duty medicine. So I spent time with, crazy army guys in the jungles of Colombia, chasing around drug runners and on the beaches of Mogadishu in '93. And so I got joint really quick. I got really integrated with all of the services real quick. And I'll tell you, I got into the leadership track. So you guys all grew up with sergeant majors or command sergeant majors. And, that's kind of where I ended up. My last 3 assignments were command billets. And when you're doing that, you're taking care of a lot of airmen. You got some choices. You can start breathing that rarefied air and believe in your own press and thinking you're something special. You can really use your position to do some good. And so I really started working on this stuff before I got out with our high exposure guys, mainly our explosive ordnance disposal guys. And I'll tell you, chaps, the guys, they invited me to a session to do a remembrance for one of the guys that we lost downrange, and it was the most unhealthy thing I'd ever seen in my life. And at the end, they said, Chief, how do you think we're doing? And I said, you guys suck. I said, crying together and being mad together and putting an extra 10 pounds in your ruck and increasing the angle on the hill by 20 degrees is only busting up your knees and your hips. I said, there's people out there that can help. And we started working on that officially. And, the Air Force took their flight medicine programs that they use for the pilots, and they turned that completely on their head and developed occupational and flight medicine for these guys to start working on this stuff even before they get out and working on it straight up. So I'd like to think we made a difference there, but as you can see, I'm passionate about it because those thoughts that go through your head when you think that maybe you'd be better off dead, they're not real, because there's help out there, and so we need to lean on that. I don't know where I'm sure you guys both have opinions on that.
No, Dave, you're totally right. There's a modality for every single veteran out there. I've done most of them: EMDR, CBT, Save a Warrior, exposure therapy, equine therapy. I've actually done equine therapy. I've been a part of it. I've had to do it. I don't teach it, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. 4 years. I've been 4 years sober, and AA. You were talking about humility and getting rid of that ego. Well, AA is a punch in the gut when it comes to that step 4 and your moral and your fearless and moral inventory of yourself. That saved my life right there.
Yeah. Amen. I wrote a book. We can talk about that. For veterans, I recommend you read the book because there's a lot of transparency in the book, and it talks about the journey with alcohol. I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic because I didn't have the physiological pieces of it. If I stopped drinking because I had to, I didn't have the withdrawals and those kind of things. I didn't go through that.
I did.
But I will tell you that I can't, and I'm 4.5 years dry. June 3rd is my day. But I was the type of person that, especially hanging out with the guys, right? If I'm hanging out with the guys and somebody hands me a beer, we'll probably wrap it up 12, 13, 14, 15 beers later.
Yep.
And so there was no 1 beer or 2 beers or a beer after work kind of person. So I just don't.
Are you married, Dave?
I am. Be 30 years in March.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
How'd your wife deal with the issues that you brought to the table?
So she was active duty, and she's a nurse, so that helps.
Yeah.
She's from Connecticut, so if you understand Eastern kind of people, that's actually a benefit. If you have PTSD, being around people that are from the East Coast is actually better because they have a tendency to absorb a whole hell of a lot of stuff without transmitting in an obtuse way. So no yelling, screaming, Go ahead.
Well, Dave, I grew up in Exeter, New Hampshire, and I'm going to tell you, I know some people that are way worse than what I was, and they're from Massachusetts. Connecticut, that may be different, but I know a lot of Massachusetts people, and they were animals, all of them.
Yeah,
and I love them. God bless them.
Yeah, no, amen. Except they're Patriots fans. That doesn't count.
Hey, whoa.
Hey, I'm with Dave today.
You're playing with fire right now, Dave.
I'm a card holding, season ticket having Dolphins fan. So
no, I really wait. I bet you went to games when Dan Marino was in his prime, right?
Dude, it started in 1970 with Zonka kicking Morris. So.
All right. Hey, I started in 1984 with the Patriots. All right. Drew Bledsoe. Okay. Who's this Tom Brady guy? Drew Bledsoe's my guy. All right.
Right.
So he's getting a divorce right now, so it doesn't even matter.
Right. Hey, Richard, to answer your question, though, my wife has been. There's no way. If I didn't have the wife I had, I think my path would be completely different. This is why we integrate the families, and I think that we're all out now, and the DoD's doing what they do, and they're chameleons. I mean, they change like every day. A policy changes and stuff's changing across the board. Right. And so if we went back, it definitely wouldn't look like the way. Doesn't mean it's better or worse. It just doesn't look the same as our stuff. But the one constant is your family. And boy, if that's not stable and wired right, you don't survive the. You don't even survive the deployments. Let alone, if you're taking some cush deployment down to Soto Cano, Honduras, and getting the suntan, even the 6 months apart causes problems if that stuff isn't
Sure.
Yep.
So I've been really lucky that way. Really lucky.
Excellent.
Yeah.
What year did you get out of the Air Force?
84.
Oh my God.
2014, excuse me. 2014. Went in 84.
Oh, thank God. I was like, damn.
Yeah, out in 14. So,
Okay.
so if you remember, if you guys stay really in tune with stuff, my last 3 years was as the command chief for 20th Air Force, which is all the intercontinental ballistic missiles in the United States. So the 3 main bases and everything that goes along with that, and it's cops everywhere and a lot of security and nuclear everything. So between healthcare and nuclear, nothing's more regulated in the whole.
Right.
But
Hey, Dave. Have you ever heard of the 118th Air Wing?
Yeah.
Okay. We've adopted, our VFW has adopted that unit. So we do love the Air Force. We do.
Well, I've never seen a Marine, as tough as you guys are. I've never seen a Marine smile wider than when you hear the sound of an A-10 over your head. It just makes you.
Dude, A-10.
It makes your life easier, man. It's, and I tell people, we wake up before the Marines to get the planes ready to fly your close air support. So.
Ouch. That hurts. I remember getting up really early, but I guess you guys get up really, really early.
Marines defined beauty rest, man. When you look at a Marine, you think beauty rest.
Oh my, dude, seriously? Man.
You don't know. In all honesty, chaps, I've been places with Marines, and I've been there at the moment of truth. And I have no more. Soldiers and Marines hold a place, especially as a medic. They hold a place in my heart that it moves me every time I run. Our license plates in Montana are pretty obvious if you're a vet, and I stop and I go out of my way, especially with soldiers and Marines, to talk with them, because I know I've been the last guy. I've been the last guy. I've been the last one to look in their eyes when they come off the helicopter. I've some of those are people that will stay with me forever.
Yeah.
And they are absolute unbelievable human beings. And so what you guys do is totally admired.
Hey, but you know what? I'm going to give you another compliment, and the Navy too. All right. I love my Navy corpsmen, and I love any medic, because you guys are our lifeblood. Like, if there's a problem, we say corpsman up, or we say medic, and you guys are there, and you guys help us out through thick and thin. I mean, Damn, you guys are amazing. I mean, what was that movie, Hacksaw Ridge? He rescued 75 of his platoon mates. I mean, that's crazy.
Without a weapon.
That's the way. Yeah, absolutely.
So conscientious, he was against the war, right? That guy, and then he ended up winning or earning the Medal of Honor.
Yeah, that was his name was shit. I can't even remember his name. Oh my God!
Somebody Google it quick.
Hey, I'm using my phone. I can't Google it. Richard, Google that. It's Desmond Dawes.
There you go.
Desmond Dawes. Yeah, he rescued 75 of his fellow soldiers, and he kept on going back. We need one more. I can get one more, and that's what we need. We need to save one more every day.
Amazing.
So if you guys will indulge me for a minute, that the flag you see behind me, that's the flag that flew over the trauma center in Balad during the surge in 2008. So
wait, that was in Balad?
That was the flag over the trauma center in Balad during the surge in 2008 from January to June.
Dude, one of my guys got hit with shrapnel all the way up his back, Ward, and he went to Balad. I was with him when I got hit, because I got hit and 2 other guys got hit, but he was the only one that went to Balad. That is really cool.
So I'll tell you about that flag and why I've got it. When I was on my way over there, I was trying to figure out how the hell I was going to get 235 highly trained medics and, all the support staff that goes along with it. And we had an whole element that was joint. So we had all the liaison people there. How the hell do you get them to do that and do combat, do trauma medicine and make it happen, right? And keep everybody's head and their mind and their heart in the right place. So I came up with two things. And I speak on this. This is kind of my core speech. I hate doing push-ups, brother. I hate them. I hate push-ups. I absolutely hate them. And they're a necessary evil.
Me too. I hate push-ups.
So I said, we're going to do push-ups. Push-ups make me stronger. They'll make other people stronger. And when you share pain, you just get better together. So we're going to do some push-ups. And the other thing was, I said, we're going to develop an attitude, a daily attitude. And no matter how shitty it gets, it's going to be a rallying cry. So I get there and we rip TOA, as the Army guys say. We got our replacements going. And so they had built the trauma center. So this was we were just coming out of the tents and into the new trauma center. They had built the trauma center onto these old Iraqi officer buildings, offices. So one of those offices was mine. One of the hard offices was mine. And I could come out of my office, make a right, a left, and go down a ramp, and it dropped right into the middle of the trauma bay, right where the helicopters. And so when I got there, the first thing I did was worked. And everybody freaked out. They're like, Chief, what the hell are you doing? And I said, guys, this is what I do. I'm a trauma nurse and I'm a medic. No, the chief doesn't work. I said, well, this one does. And we're always a pair of hands, so I'm going to work. And so they thought that was pretty cool. But when I came to work, I had to walk down this hallway, and in the first office was the office for the chaplain. We had a chaplain 24/7. You can imagine why. So I went in the office, I got on my knees, and I had the chaplain pray on me. And the cool thing was one day it was a rabbi, and the next day it was a Catholic priest, and the next day it was a Baptist minister. But the words were all pretty close to the same, and it sure definitely built a little foundation for strength, right? Because I needed that because I had to be strong for everybody else. Because when you're in front of all this mess and you got young kids it's their first time doing this stuff, it's a little violent. My second stop was in the admin section, the command section. And these are the guys that moved planes around. These are the guys that got your buddy back to his parents in 48 hours back in the world, right? And everybody likes to call them admin people. That's only because that's what their MOS AFSC was, but they were doing much more than that. So when I started, I said 5 push-ups, guys. We're just going to do 5 push-ups. I'm not going to kill you. We're just going to do 5. Air Force thing, right? The Marines would have done 55. So I said 5 push-ups. So we do 5 push-ups. And then the magic question came, guys. How are you doing, Chief? Now that's an innocuous question, isn't it? Until you're leading people in these shitty places. And I turned around and I said, I'm maximum fabulous, guys. And they looked at me and said, what in the hell does that mean? And I said, that is the highest on the hierarchy of attitudinal behavior, is to be max fab. And that's where we're all going to get. And on days when we're not max fab, we're going to work towards it all day long and the next day until we get there, because that's where we need to stay to be able to carry through. Because that carried on. This thing it kind of got out of control. I just did it. I went to Shields. I went to the sporting goods store the other day, and I did it to the workers in there. I did this little thing, and you could see them all light up. So when I went to leave, the boss asked me what I wanted when I was leaving. And I told him I wanted the flag at a Heroes Highway. So, chaps, if you've been through there, Heroes Highway is the small tented area from the helicopters into the trauma bay. In the top of that was an American flag, huge American flag. Took about 6 people to get it when it's folded out. If you saw that flag during my time there, if you could see that flag, 99.5% of the time that you went home alive. So our survival rate was 99.5 while I was there. And I attribute this organizational attitude thing to it. So he told me, you can't have one of those flags. They've been spoken for in the national museums, and they're out there. If you go see them, if you go to the museums, you'll see them. But I told him I wanted this flag off the top of the trauma center. And he said, Chief, those are almost impossible to come by. He says, those are almost as rare. I said, I know, but you asked me. I said, just give me a bologna sandwich and a pat on the back, and we've done good work, and I'll move on. Well, when the little get-togethers that they do, they gave me this flag, and you might not be able to see it very well, but on the top's my rank, the the name of the theater, hospital, the dates that I served, and on the bottom of that flag it says Maximum Fabulous. That's about keeping people alive. It's about keeping people alive, chaps, Richard.
Yeah.
I went back. Most of those people were out of Wilford Hall in San Antonio, which is right there with Bamsey, right? And I went back for another event down in San Antonio, and I stopped in there and saw them. And you'd have thought it's probably the first time ever in my career, regardless of my position, I felt like royalty, because those people rallied around that. They were still saying that after we were done, because they understood their survival tool was their attitude. Because as soon as you get a bad attitude, everything else starts to go to shit.
It's true.
You know, when I was doing like I said, my graduate degree's in disaster management. So I was the incident commander during COVID for a higher education institution, our university here.
Okay.
And they kept beating me to death on this morale thing, right? Morale. And I said, guys, do you know what morale is in the United States Army? And I got all kinds of answers: mail, food, clean socks. I said, no, it's a working rifle. I said, if you give people the tools that they need, I said, they don't need anything else. They stop bitching. But I said, give them a broken rifle, and the world's terrible. So Max Fab was my way of keeping working rifles in everybody's mind and heart and emotions and those type of things. So, but that's the flag, man. That's a piece of history back there. And it's still got dirt on it from the day they took it down. It hasn't been touched, other than the fact that it travels with me. So, so I'm out there trying to talk this talk, and I wrap it all around where we kind of started. I mean, we jumped from 19 years old to PTSD, but there's a lot in between there. There's a lot about people. There's a lot about, I'll tell you that I thought I had some tools when I left the farm, right? I thought I knew how to be nice to people and have manners and do those things. And I found out pretty quick that my vocabulary and my jokes and my prism of the world wasn't perfect, right? I needed to learn things. And so I had two options. I could have made assumptions about people, maybe developed some hate and went through my life that way. Or I could ask a lot of questions and get involved with people and see if I can make a difference. So when you drive it back to the vets and our community, our extended community of veterans and those of us that have served combat or not, when you extend that and you start finding out about people and you find out their stories, you can start making a huge difference in people's lives at a lot of levels. And, that's really where I'm focused now, Richard. You talk about the after, what am I doing after? I'm really trying to get myself in a position where I'm here. So if people need me, I'll come and help and speak and share the book with folks and that type of thing. So I feel blessed anytime I'm around a veteran because I know they have a story, and usually I like to eat that up. So.
Yes.
Well, Dave, I don't know if you can see behind me, but I'm maximum fabulous right now. Look at this view.
You already got it, man. You already got the
I'm loving life right now, man. I get to go and marry really cool people and veterans because I do it for free. And I love your story. I love the fact that you're helping people, and I want to hear more about this equine therapy that you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So Horses, Spirits, Healing was started by Intermountain Equestrian Center that's run by Paul Gatzmeyer and Barb Skelton. They're pillars of our community, and they've been here for a long time. Paul started it because he wanted to get involved with veterans because his dad flew in the bombers over Europe in World War II. And Paul never served, but it's kind of his way of giving back. So the initial concept was just, they love horses and they've got an equestrian center, was to marry these horses up with people so that there was an adjunct. I'm trying to find something, and chaps, maybe you can speak to your experience. I'm trying to find something that calms me and helps with my demons and those kind of things. And so we brought on a certified trainer that's equine therapy trainer, a counselor. They don't do mental health, but they do the horse piece with it. And so we we incorporate with all the referral centers, so the VA and the other medical treatment facilities, especially that deal with mental health, and the court system, right? So some of these veterans, when they come out of veteran court, one of their options is to work with the horses. So right on, brother. So so it started off that way, and the doggone thing's grown, and we extended it to families because there was a need for that. And then all of a sudden you see the therapy results start to actually drive data. And then the University of Columbia picked 4 programs out of the nation to kind of incorporate with, which ours is one of them. And so, when you're doing these post, when you do your baselines, and then you come back and you do your post TBI studies and those type of things, and you get, you come up with your numbers. Man, the horse is just making huge improvements with these people's lives, and some of these people are so involved with the horse that if you took it away, that you'd have some pretty severe repercussions. So they asked me to come on. I really didn't. I said, well, what do you guys need me to do? And so, I talk with the veterans organizations, which is that to get them, money drives all of this, and running horses is not cheap. So money drives all of this. And so I found it a little bit challenging with the veterans organizations to make any inroads. And it's not because they're not wanting to, or they have other motives. It's just that everybody wants a piece of them, right? There's a lot out there. There's a lot of competing things out there. So anyway, yeah. So our horses are magical. They've all got names. One of the horses' names is MasterCard because they actually bought the horse with a MasterCard. But people stay with their horse. They stay with their trainer, and they can come out as often as they want. And so if you look at some of the bigger organizations out there that do similar work, or at least work on behalf of veterans, especially veterans that have combat related injuries or illness, their overhead's pretty high. In fact, some of it is about $9 makes it to the veteran, and $91 is to the overhead. So there's some numbers that are that extreme. Ours is the opposite. So about $91 makes it all the way to the vet. And then we keep our overhead. We do almost all of our work for free. So the unfortunate side of that story is that our fundraising and our grant allocations have underperformed our utilization this year. So we're behind on fundraising. So we're working hard on that, but I'm pretty proud of just being part of it. It's amazing to see. They always tell me I need to come out and ride a horse, and they're right. I mean, I do my therapy things and the stuff that I do, and I've ridden, and I'll go out with the vets and our brothers and sisters and spend some time with them. But yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That's awesome. I love horses. I do. I actually learned how to ride on a 19-hand, huge horse. I was like 7 years old, scared to death. But I love horses. I've got to lose a little bit more weight so my wife and I can go and ride. And we definitely love to take part in anything in Montana. Cause I've never been to Montana. That's one of the states I've never been to.
Well, just hit me up. I mean, you got my information. Just hit me up. You got it. I'll get you a place to stay. We'll go ride a horse.
That'd be awesome. And by the way, in Arizona, I saw so many horses today. It's not even funny.
That's awesome. What did Richard do? Did he run away?
I don't know. He's gone. I guess I'm in charge now.
That's not good.
No, it's not. He's the host. I'm just a comic relief.
I'm sure he'll pop back on. I'm sure he'll.
Yeah. He might have had to take a call or something. I don't know.
So tell me about the show. You guys are getting some pretty big viewership. So, what's kind of the genre out there? It's short of us all storytelling. We've got stories to tell and to talk about. And I don't like to be all doom and gloom.
It's we get the high roller interviews. We've done Uncle Si, but we've also done the lowest of the low, the PFC that didn't go anywhere. We want to know every story, from the highs to the lows, and it helps people. I mean, it's not like, we don't hear great stories all the time. We hear real stories all the time. And those real stories, they help people. And we're listening to 9 different countries. I don't even know how our rating is. That's all Richard.
Right.
He knows, he's got the numbers, but we did well enough to win, best Navy podcast. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Don't photobomb those people behind you.
no, those are the people. Those are the people that I just married, Dave, and they're taking a picture while I'm doing a podcast. And I thought I was getting away from them, but hold on. I'll move. I'll move. Oh, okay. Never mind. They're moving. But I was very happy to wed these two. It was an honor and a privilege. And it's funny. My wife, we went to church yesterday, and I've been wanting to tell her all these things. Like, I really feel a need to be with the Lord. And she's like, hey, after I'm done my MBA school, Andrew, I want you to go to seminary. I want you to become an Episcopal priest. And that's my goal. And that's why I'm a minister now, but I'm not an Episcopal priest, but I will be. Hopefully.
I'm back.
Hey,
you hear me?
Blake, you okay?
Yeah, I don't know what happened, man.
Dude, I can't see you.
We actually took it personal, Richard.
Yeah, we did.
We were a little upset.
I have no idea what's going on with my camera.
I don't know, man.
I
never had issues, man.
But hey, I tried to do the best I could without you. I'm sorry.
Right.
You're good.
Hey, chaps, let's you know what? If you've got viewers out there that got an extra $50, $5, $10 or whatever, and they
hey, no, you got it. I'm get the link to Richard, or you can send it to me via email, and I will donate tonight, right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop it in the chat here.
Okay. Oh, okay, good.
I'm gonna drop it in the chat right now.
Fleek, you there?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what happened, man. Yeah, I keep on. I see your Facebook profile picture.
I know. Can you hear me though?
I can. Yeah, hear you fine. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Oh, we got picture.
Wait,
some of us have a voice for radio, so it's all good.
Yes.
Hey, I know a couple people that have a voice for. That's funny, Dave. Hey, welcome, Richard Fleek, back to the conversation. Woohoo! Way to go, buddy.
Hey, Richard, I dropped the link to the horses in there. And if our brothers and sisters out there want to make a difference, especially up here in Montana. So Montana has the highest rate of veterans per capita in the nation. And
really,
we are constantly year over year in the top 3. I think this year we're 3. Last year we were number 1 in veteran suicide per capita. So everything that we're doing is important, and we're trying to make a difference. So if anybody out there wants to just make a difference, we ask small companies to give $2,500, and that covers 50 sessions. So the average person, if you give $50, you'll cover a veteran for 1 session, and that's a big deal. So,
I will donate in the name of my post to your organization, or of our post. Sorry.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So we want to talk stories in our journey. I started in 1984, so that's for those out there that were around that time frame. If you think about it, it's Reagan, it's the Cold War.
The California Olympics, because I was there. I remember the California Olympics in 1984.
Right. So
I was a baby. I was like 5 years old when that happened.
You're a young guy. So I'm 19, single, and my first assignment's 20 minutes from downtown Madrid, Spain. It's awful, right? Just a terrible, terrible gig. But we fought from It was great. It's the best of 15. I had 15 assignments in 30 years, and that was probably still the best. But if you think about it, we were Cold War. We were fighting from where we were at. If you think about the 1st Armored Division in Germany, they fought. They were there to fight right there. I mean, they practiced in the streets that they were going to fight in. They didn't get loaded up on trains and end up in the desert. We didn't even know how to do that. And I went through that transition. So think about how there's nuances there for the old heads that are listening to this. None of us can have an appreciation for what it was like to get drafted and have to go to Vietnam, right? Because we all volunteered. So unless you did that, you don't know it. And that's a different kind of veteran when you get down to the things that we're talking about on how to take care of people. It's just a different kind of veteran. Conversations are different on those type of things. The brotherhood's there because we've all had to go through there's a lot of similarities. But the whys and the hows and just the makeup of our country at the time, and you drive that back to, heavens, we're losing the last bunch of them, but the World War II guys and the Korean guys, that's different. So we're in this transition thing now where I think that we're right now, going to start, putting out into society a different kind of veteran. So I went from 84 to 90, first Desert Storm, and then we didn't stop, right? We were in the middle of something for up until months ago, up until we pulled out of Afghanistan.
Right.
So what is the new airman, soldier, sailor, Marine, Coast Guardsman, and now spaceman, right? We've got spaceman.
Yeah.
So what is that person learning? What are their experiences, and what are they going to bring positive and challenging back to our civilian world when they transition? And I think it's our responsibility to fill that gap. The Vietnam guys never felt comfortable putting their arms around us because nobody put their arms around them. And so we had to work on that a little bit. I think some of these people that are going to come out of this next generation, it's going to be weird because, some of my supervisors, my E7, when my second assignment was in Indiana, my E7 broke my nose, headbutted me and broke my nose. He's a former soldier. He was a medic. He was a medic, Army medic. They crossed over to the Air Force, and we're out playing softball one day. He takes his shirt off, and he looks like a surgeon's nightmare. The guy had been shot through both lungs and that type of thing. And he broke my nose at a party one time. They thought it was funny. That was just okay to do. Well, I was raised by those guys, but I'll tell you, some of their tough love I will not replace for anything. Some of those long walks behind the hospital to talk about things were invaluable, and that stuff doesn't happen anymore. So. Yeah, I don't want to get too waxing philosophic about this, but when I get an opportunity to be on a show like this, and you've got an audience the way you do, and you got the both of you here, and Chaps has got his own story. I think we're remiss not looking at a bigger picture. I got it, Chaps. Love you, brother.
Yeah, his phone's dying.
Yeah, love you, man. No, it's good. And there it is. He wrote in there, he loves us. And yes. I love the fact that grown men can sit and have a conversation like this and end the conversation with that. Because, boy, if you miss out and you don't do that, you might have lost your last opportunity to say it. And I think we all mean it. I do.
Absolutely. He tells me he loves me all the time, man. I'm like, hey, easy, man.
Okay. It's
easy.
In some ways, that kind of love is not. It doesn't get any more real.
Yeah, when I got out of the Navy, I struggled a little bit because you're just from this huge brotherhood, man. Like it doesn't get any better than that. To back to my high school friends, and it just wasn't the same. So I struggled for a little bit until I found the American Legion, and they helped me. They groomed who I am today.
Well, and that's good. If you start looking at some of these veteran suicides, they're non-combat. A lot of these guys don't even have combat time.
Yeah,
and a lot of it's exactly what you described, and it's this reintegration thing that it's hard to articulate how you feel.
Right.
And there's a trust thing, right? you're pretty relaxed around your brothers. You can get, back in my drinking days, I could probably get a little more drunk than I normally would because I had brothers and sisters that were going to pick me up, and vice versa, right? And he's kind of there. Yeah, that doesn't. It's not natural, I guess. Out in the civilian world, it's not natural.
Yeah, and like when I first came home, the way I would talk, people would look at me. My wife would always stop me and say, "Hey, not everybody was in the military. You can't talk like that."
Right. Hey, stick with me. I'm going to do one thing.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Pat, can you bring my charger? My computer wants to get a little lazy here. We'll plug it in. But no, well, so I wrote this book on leadership. It's called Giving Back: Life and Leadership from the Farm to the Combat Zone and Beyond. And it's full of farm experiences directly related to my leadership and the military. Yeah. And one thing that you'll find is you can come in. You don't have to hide. One thing that you'll find is that it's this continuously going back to the challenges that in my life, farm life. I guess you could talk in the same vein about inner city life, urban life, and the tough things about growing up in projects or whatever it is that kind of groom you and shape you. But when you bring all your military stuff back out and you stay in that Napoleonic structure and that whole, that hard reporting chain and the chain of command, and you stay in that and you try to apply that in the civilian world, people don't like you. They emotionally do not care for you because they think that you're doing something that's nefarious. And actually, it's the highest form of caring, right? I mean, because everybody's included, and mm-hmm. Leaders eat last, and you got to make sure everybody's fed, and figuratively and literally. And I get it. I totally get it. It's taken me. I've been retired since 14, so I'm coming up. It'll be 8 years, or it was just 8 years, and August was my retirement ceremony. The 1st of December, it was the actual date. But yeah, so where is that? There's so many gaps to be filled. I feel like I'm responsible to help, and that's why I'm doing it. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I'm talking. That's why I'm here with you. Is there's a gap, and I think people need to feel free to pick up the phone. You and I already have a better relationship than I do with probably 100 people here in town, just because of our backgrounds in doing this together. So.
Right. Yeah. I tell everybody, the military does a great job to take the civilian out of you, but they don't know how to put it back in you when they release you back out in the wild. So there's this huge disconnect for a while until you figure things out.
Right.
So my suggestion is always to somebody that's just getting out of the military is go find a American Legion, VFW, AMVET, something like that, and they definitely helped me a lot.
Yeah, no, that's huge. What'd you do in the Navy?
I was the Air Boss's yeoman on the USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier. I
saw it back there. I was wondering if that was your gig. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's my old neighborhood.
You had your token Marines running around the ship?
Oh yeah, it was 80 Marines.
Yeah, there you go. That's pretty awesome. No, I've got respect for what everybody does, and I really tried hard to expose myself to as much as possible because I didn't feel that you could lead, especially in the combat zone, wherever you're at. There's all different levels of that too. I didn't feel that you could lead unless you learned a little bit of the language and tried to have a little bit of understanding of what people were going through. And so I think that applies in life. We just don't have enough structured venues where people feel comfortable. And I wonder, I had the opportunity to work for general officers directly, close the door and talk to the old man just because that's what, as the chief, in the Navy, your master chiefs did it all the time.
Yep.
And those are pretty candid conversations. And, I'm not going to share any specifics with you or intimacies because actually, quite frankly, it's almost like confession. But I will tell you that the first thing that I learned is that people that are in true leadership positions, and I've done it since I've been out, and I was it. When you're a one-man band medic out in the middle of nowhere, I guess you're kind of leading a whole bunch of things to include yourself. But the one thing that I never took for granted was the fact that leaders get a lot of advice and everybody's got an opinion and there's emotions that can be wrapped around hard decisions. But in the end, the only person that owns it's the leader. And if you don't have respect for that, that's a little difficult. I had some really good leaders that I had some really hard conversations with that actually walked out of the room and actually went and did what I suggested because they knew it was the right thing, which I thought was awesome. But it was really tough and I don't want to pick on officers per se, but as people are groomed in their service, in the military, period, groomed to be leaders we don't talk enough about the soft pieces, this human piece to making the space for
Right.
people to talk. And so if you don't have the tools, you really don't know how to articulate it in a way that people feel comfortable doing it. It's almost like, the snake saying, "No, I'm really not going to hurt you. Just pet my head." Right? Like, yeah, okay, right, buddy. I can see your fangs. And we stigmatize this mental health thing so bad post Vietnam and then all the way through Cold War time. We even tried changing the name of it. The Air Force, it was a mental health clinic, and then it was life skills, and then they went back to mental health. They didn't. I mean, they were rebranding. They were struggling with it so much. So I didn't mean for this podcast to be focused on that, but I'm so passionate about the fact that I think that the avenue to fixing this 22 veterans a day suicide and the struggles that we've got and guys sleeping on the street because they just couldn't make it and all
Right.
the things that go along with that. I think the answer lies from within, man. If we keep looking on the outside, hoping that somebody's going to show up and come up with some magic solution, I don't think they understand because it starts with a conversation.
Right. Yeah.
And the price of entry is service. And as much as we pick on each other, we all respect each other equally.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So
100%. And I tell everybody that I run into, man, if you know a veteran, if you have a neighbor veteran or your brother, your sister, or your uncle, just call them up and just say, "Hey, how you doing?" Literally, that's all it takes is to pull a gun out of somebody's mouth.
Yeah. Well, it's the ask and earnest thing. I've got a friend here who's got a nonprofit. She works on rural and farmer mental health and suicide. Her dad was an 82-year-old farmer and killed himself. And our farmer suicide rates are even higher than the veterans rates here. Yeah, rural mental health is a big deal. And her nonprofit's called Ask and Earnest. And you're right. When you go up to people that are struggling mentally, I'll give you an example, Richard.
Yeah.
If you and I are driving down the street and the car in front of us hits a guy on a bike, you and I are going to do something. I'm gonna go check him out. You're gonna dial 911. We're gonna get a blanket. We're gonna stop some bleeding. We're gonna do stuff, right?
Yeah.
If somebody has the same accident and it's a mental health condition, we flip a U-turn and go 7 blocks around it because we feel like we're not equipped to intervene. And the answer is no, because there's always something that you can do. And you said the magic thing, the elixir to mental health is just stop somebody and say, "Hey, you look a little off. Are you okay? Is there something I can do for you?" The healing starts right then and there.
Yep.
Nobody wants to cross that line.
Right.
But we all want to say we're courageous. All through COVID, everybody that had a job that was difficult or made more difficult by COVID, nurses, doctors, lawyers, bankers, whatever it was, we started using the word hero, and it started to bother me. Because, Audie Murphy said the definition of a hero is somebody that's too tired, too cold, or too hungry to give a shit. And there's a lot of truth in that because they get down to just bare survival instincts and then they go do stuff. And in his case, he was lucky enough to live through it and talk about it and get the awards that went along with it, the appropriate decorations. So hero is a pretty powerful word to me. And, heroes are people that demonstrate courage beyond what they even thought they were capable of. And I think one of the most courageous acts in our society today amongst us veterans is the ability to walk across the room and say, "Hey, man." I stopped a guy. I was on my way to therapy. There's a guy sitting there with a service dog. I said, "It's a nice dog." I said, "How long have you had it?" So on and so forth. I said, "So what's your story?" So he told me. Military guy, can't breathe, burn pits, first Gulf War, blah, all the whole shit match. We talked for about 15 minutes. I kind of told him a little bit about me. I said, hey, man, I'm praying for you. Here's my name. If you need anything, let me know, so on and so forth. Before I could take 3 steps walking away, he had already thanked me 3 times for stopping by and asking how he was doing.
Yep.
Big deal. And I'm sure he went home and said, this guy stopped and talked to me, that kind of thing. But people see those service dogs and they freeze.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got to work through that. I think it's us to lead. I think it's
100%. And I guarantee you changed that guy's life. You changed probably his trajectory of his being, just by simply stopping and talking to him for 15 minutes.
Yeah. And he was,
thanks.
He was frustrated with the burn pit stuff. And I said, I'm in the burn pit registry. I did my time living almost right next to it. And, you know how long it took me to get my first VA appointment for the burn pit?
No.
Yes. Just take a guess.
I would have to say it's like 6 months.
11 years.
What?
From the time I put my name in the registry to the time I got my first face-to-face appointment was 11 years.
That doesn't even make sense to me.
It doesn't. And the appointment was just validation of geography. Give me your assignments, give me where you were at, give me your exposures, and so on. And I brought up a couple of places. She looked at me and she's like, I don't even know if that qualifies. And I said, well, my lungs think it qualifies.
Right.
But so we're struggling with that. And that's the next thing. So between PTSD, whatever ailments that are going to come along with just, being the exposures that we have, and the burn pit thing. I'm working after this election next Tuesday. I'm going to get with a couple of state senators, and we're going to work on some VA disability laws in Montana, because they're a little bit behind, and see if we can't get some laws amended to kind of right the ship for our folks.
Yeah.
And so wish me luck on that. I mean, when you get into the legislature, everybody's got their own agendas, and so it's all competing stuff. But I'll see if I can go up to the Capitol and maybe testify and talk about these things. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So tell me about this thing that you started 18 months ago that's freaking taken off like a rocket. And what happened? And I find it fascinating. I'm glad I ran into you guys. It's been,
that's awesome.
You're filling me up. I'm getting my max fab now.
Yeah. So the way it started is it's been a project in my brain for 57 years. So both of my grandfathers are combat veterans. One was in the Navy. He was in boot camp when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. His first assignment was to go to Pearl Harbor and fill body bags. My grandfather on my mom's side, he was drafted and fought in across Europe. He was a member of the Old Hickory 30th Division, and he fought Hitler's SS division twice and beat him both times. So when I was a kid, my favorite thing was to do is when I saw my grandparents is just talk about their experiences. Even from a little, I was just a little guy, and my mom would always scold me. Hey, stop talking to your grandfather about the war. It upsets him, blah, blah, blah. But that just intrigued me more because my grandfather on my mom's side, he was literally the strongest person I've ever met in my life. And then every time I would talk to him about the war, he would start crying. And I'm like, well, what the hell did this man see 60 years ago that make him cry today? And it always fascinated me. But then, years later, I became a veteran. And then throughout my travels, anytime I'd go to the American Legion, VFW, anywhere, I'd always sit at the bar next to the old guy and start talking to him and getting their stories. And I heard some amazing stories, man. I was talking to this one guy, and he was talking about being at a gate and shooting the locks off. He was talking about Auschwitz. He was there when they shot the locks off Auschwitz. And I'm just like, holy crap, man. Like, people literally need to hear these stories. And not for, well, first of all, Americans need to hear these stories because I feel that every American needs to know what you guys went through. I mean, it's important to me to get these stories out. And then also it's important for the veteran themselves to talk because I feel like it's therapeutic. And then when somebody's listening, I've had people hop in my inbox on Facebook, whatever, and say, man, I watched your show last night. I just want to thank you because I was in a similar situation, and that really got me through the night, hearing that somebody else is going through it also. So it's like all these things are coming at you, and it's all snowballing, and all these positive things are coming out of the show. So that's where I am today. So our first show was July 4th, 2021. And first we started every other weekend doing these shows, but then I was like, no, we need more. So we turned it into a YouTube channel, and we do it at least once a week now, sometimes 2-3 times a week. And so
I think it's unbelievably smart. And I'm glad that you're given the venue, because once I learned to transmit, I learned to get help. I learned to set boundaries. And you know what, Richard? And I wrote it in the book. Once I learned to cry,
yeah,
it's okay, man.
Yeah.
And the title of the chapter is "It's Okay to Cry on the Farm," because I can remember I got thrown off a horse, and I can remember my mother. My mother's read this book, told me I wrote it 40 years too late to save her. She's 88 years old, and the book absolutely messed her up because it's just a lot. It brings the whole thing around, and she found out stuff about me she didn't know. But I got bucked off a horse, and the whole time while they're stuffing paper towels in my head to get the bleeding stopped, they're yelling at me to stop crying. Well, you know what I did, Richard? I went over and I led those medics on my last combat go. I led those medics, and we had days where we would have more than one flag draped body bag, freshly KIA guys, that looked like my son, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
And we had a small ceremony that we did before we moved them out and started their journey back home. And there's not a dry eye in the room, and people are emotional. I mean, extremely emotional, except for one dude who felt he couldn't do it. He couldn't afford it. And it damaged me. It's damaged me to this day. And so I should have been shedding a tear, brother.
Yeah.
It's the amazing things that you see from people and their dedication. And there is truth that we all go to combat for our brothers and sisters. And then the hierarchy kicks in later on. That whole country and freedom and all those things, that's all second to the guy and the guy to your right and the guy to your left. It's a big deal, and I've been there at the moment of truth too much. If I'm an expert in anything, it's probably death, and it started when I was on the farm dealing with animals on a day-to-day basis, and all the way through. In fact, I was involved in a car accident. I wasn't driving. Another car hit us. We were pulling a boat. 6 months before I went in the Air Force, didn't even know I was going to be a medic, and I was involved in a car accident, and 3 kids were killed in that accident that were my age. And I was the first responder. I was the first one back to all that. So, maybe that was God's way of putting me in a situation to tell me that my life was going to be kind of full of this stuff. So you got to talk.
Yeah.
And I'm not alone. As lonely as I'm telling every vet out there that's listening, tomorrow you're going to feel lonely. I had a rough patch yesterday evening. I had a nice talk with my wife and kind of work through it and get back to max fab, right? Get back to that attitudinal mindset. You're going to hit low spots, but man, as soon as that crosses your mind that you're alone or that you'd be better off someplace else other than where you're at, knock it off, because there's way too many people out here that want to help you. You just got to build your network, build your safety devices, and roll with it.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm sharing the book, man. I'll show it to you. I want people to read it.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that before I let you go. Let's hear about the book. Give them back. So,
the book is a compilation of they're my stories. They're my adventures. It covers things like change. It covers challenges. There's some military stories in there, some medical stories, some things when my integrity was pushed to the maximum, being on the right side of a decision, but it being, the hardest place in the world to live. And there's some wartime reflections in there, chapters that were really hard to write. But they're in there. Amazingly, most everybody that's read it, that gets back to me, They'll pick a chapter or they'll pick nuggets. It's an easy book to read. The chapters are really short, and at the end they've got little nuggets in there of things to make you introspective to think about. And amazingly, people like you just talked about, I don't think I've had but one person come to me and say, "Tell me about this chapter or this chapter." The two that are probably a little more detailed on combat related stuff like you'd heard from your grandfather. And they avoid that. It's
Yeah.
like it's some taboo. And so I don't have a problem talking about it up to a certain point, based on I need to share. It's therapeutic, like you said, but sometimes you can get to a point where it becomes unhealthy. So you got to kind of leave it. You got to kind of leave it be. So everybody's got their own way of dealing with it. But the thing is that you can get into an environment that's safe, and there's people out there that want to help, and got to go do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
When I first met my wife, I didn't talk. I was like a mute. Even when I was a kid growing up, I was a mute. Like my neighbors would tell my parents that, I think your son's on drugs or something, man. He's just not right. He doesn't talk or anything. I joined the Navy, got around different people, and then I met my wife, and then I just started growing, and I went from this mute kid to now talking on a podcast 2 or 3 times a week. It's
right.
Weird transition.
I can't. I'm amazed. I'm so glad that we made all of this happen, because I'm absolutely freaked out about where you're at with this thing, because I think people are trying to break through like you are, to make an impact, and I think you found it.
Yeah.
I'm going to drop the link to the book here in the chat.
Yeah, do it, and I'll when this episode goes live, I'll make sure all this information is in the description.
Right.
And I'll make sure.
But you said we're live right now. So if somebody just
no, we're not live right now. It will be live Sunday night probably.
All right, that's cool. We'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
No, it's so relaxed, and if Chaps was still here, I'd still bust his chops on the Marine Corps. It's great. It's good that you guys do it together. And what I'll offer is if you want me back, or you think that I have some value for certain
for sure,
certain stuff, have me back, because even if I get one person, it's like I put in the book. If you read the whole book and you get one nugget out of the book, then it was worth writing the book. And I mean it. The book's titled "Giving Back" for a reason. I'm not gonna die with the nuggets and the treasures that I've collected along the way. And some of that is about this use of alcohol. I talk about it in the book as being married to it, and how the divorce was really ugly, and the things that you go through, and what you didn't know about this partner that you had until after you leave it, and all of the evil things that go along with it. But and it's not that you shouldn't drink. If you can handle alcohol and you can have a beer with buddies, I think that's great. I think there's a bonding thing that goes there. So I'm not saying everybody should be teetotal, but Dave should be teetotal.
Yeah.
And it's gotten me in a lot better place, and it keeps my demons in a better spot where I can make friends with them. And my therapist asked me the other day about it. She said, why do you think that there's the veteran suicide is where it's at, and those type of things? And we talked about all of this stuff that we talked about. But I told her, I said, you've got to understand that PTSD, or these demons that we carry around, are permanent. And I think where the disconnect is Americans especially, they want to take a pill or have a surgery, cut the lump out or replace my hip, and then let me get back to normal.
Right.
You own this one.
Yep.
This is an incurable thing. It's managed. It's not cured. And so once you tell yourself that, then you can start using your efforts and energy to manage it personally and with help. So.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's Dave in a nutshell. I'm sure we could talk for hours.
Yeah. So we'll probably cut it off here in a minute, but I was going to suggest, let me get this book. I'll read it, and then I'll have you back on, and we'll talk about the book.
Then type your address into the chat, type your address into the chat, and I'll send you a signed copy. You don't need to buy it.
I'd love to buy it.
Well, buy it, but let me. Of course, your address would say Duesenberg. Duesenberg Drive.
There.
So I'm going to stop by your house and say hi when I get to Tennessee.
Heck yeah.
I like Tennessee. I don't like driving in Knoxville, but I like Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm a couple hours from Knoxville. I'm about 30 miles south of Nashville.
I like Nashville.
It's getting crowded here.
Well, because it's a good place.
Yeah, it's an awesome place. I'm originally from Detroit. I've been here in this area for 9.5 years.
How to spell your last name, Richard?
It's F as in Frank, Leek. Type it out for you.
Fleek. Okay.
Yep.
I would have put Fleet.
Yeah, it would have been fitting.
So, no, that's no, it's good country to live in. And,
Yeah, it's awesome. So I'm going to cut this recording here.
Sure.
I appreciate you coming on, but if you want to just hang out for a second here,
Yeah, you bet.
until we cut loose. Just want to thank all of our listeners. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure you buy Dave's book and send him a few bucks for his nonprofit that he's working with.
The nonprofit thing would be helpful.
Yes, awesome.
And you're helping out brothers and sisters directly. It's just a
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'll see you on the other side.